everybody. I am Baltmatrix, and I think it's safe to say that the Earthrise Optimus Prime mold is quite frankly one of the best Optimus Prime molds we have ever gotten. But the question remains, what if it was bigger? That's right, we're taking a look at the oversized Earthrise Optimus Prime purchased over at SirToys.com. This thing is so big, I can't... Now, this Optimus Prime figure is from the Deformation line. His full name is Iron Commander. I'm not sure if it's the AOYI line of Deformation, simply because there's nothing on the directions that say that. Now, the figure did only come with directions and his accessories. More on that in a minute. But here's the size. I mean, it's the same freaking size as Siege Jetfire. I mean, it's absolutely massive. Now, I think these are the same folks that brought us this Deformation Optimus Prime from Siege. This is more of a leader class Siege figure. So, I mean, here's Earthrise Shattered Glass Prime. It's the same figure. And then here's the larger Siege mold. And this Siege mold is far and away my favorite version of Optimus Prime from the Siege line. It's got the best accessories, or the most, well, useful accessories, and the gun is, I think, better, and the figure itself is just better than the original Siege figure, which was awesome in its own right. Now, is this new Earthrise Prime Oversized as good as this Siege Oversized Prime? We'll start off with talking about the figure with the posability and the head sculpt. Head sculpt is weird, and it's got this weird 6 or G on its head for some reason, and the eyes are painted in there, but they're really hard to see, even with the right amount of lighting. The paint on the eyes isn't quite right, where as opposed to Angry Optimus, the eyes are much better, but they are sunk in just like the original mold. I hate this G on the forehead. It's just a me thing. The head, unfortunately, does not have any up or down movement. It's not on a ball joint. It's just on a swivel for side to side. If there is a ball joint in here, then, yeah, his head's too big and there's no posing there. The figure itself has the exact same posability as its smaller brethren. Shoulders are on swivels and then hinges. Swivels just above the elbow, and then the elbows do move. Fists do articulate, though they're very tight, and the hands do open and close, just like the original mold. Torso articulation is limited because of, well, tire butt. And then the legs work just fine. There is a very light ratchet for forward and back. Nice click for in and out, but the clicking in and out is a little bit wobbly for my taste. Thigh swivel, ratcheting at the knee, and then the Siege ankle tilt in and out. Though, even though it's so big, posability feels weird. And what I mean by that is the legs feel particularly odd, and it never really holds a pose all that great. The bend here is like single ratcheted, so it's not smooth. So once you get past a certain point, it does click over one more. Okay. And then the ratchets in the hips, while tight, they do have a lot of play in them. So you do have to be careful. Like, this pose is a little bit too static. I would love to get it a little bit more, but getting like even just one click over requires a little bit more force than I care to admit, and it'll hold. But remember, there's a whole lot of play in those ratchets, where as opposed to, the Earthrise mold there's no ratchets, even though it feels like there should be, but the joints are nice and tight, and it holds its poses. And then the swivel here does ratchet in the same manner, so we're okay there. Maybe it's just me being bad at posing figures. We could chalk it up to that. But one thing I do have to mention is the plastic. It's not great. It's just past, like, that that weird middle ground between garbage KO and acceptable KO. It's actually, no, not acceptable, exceptional KO. So, an example. This Optimus Prime that I showed off earlier, the Siege one, is actually, I think the plastic is better than the original figure, or almost, like, it's paritable. It's parity. The plastic is in quality parity with the original figure. This plastic is nowhere near as good as this, but it holds together well and it presents well, but it has a flimsiness to it that you can feel, or fragility to it that you can feel. Maybe it's just not that thick. Maybe that's it. It's not awful. It's not even bad. It's just, if it was scaled down a little bit and made a little thicker, I think we get the same quality as this boy right here. Even with all my complaining about the posability of the figure, you can still pull off some pretty cool poses. I'm just not sure how well it'll stand the test of time, considering the quality of the plastic. Still, though, for the price, you're getting one heck of a figure. Now, this big boy comes with not one, but 3 accessories, the first of which is his gun, which is painted and can collapse for use in vehicle mode, or storage in vehicle mode, so I do appreciate that. Then he comes with this clear plastic shield that's painted a little bit, and it posts fine on either the forearms or the shoulders, one or the other, or the figure can hold it in his hands in use. Just requires a bit of force to get into his hand, though the shield, while big in and of itself, feels absolutely tiny on this figure. And then lastly, it comes with a giant freaking axe. I have no idea what this is from. Is this from one of the movie lines? I don't know. But it's a giant freaking axe that could double as like some kind of laser cannon, because you can place it on any of the siege ports that he comes with, and yeah, that works. Or, and I think it's actually supposed to be held on its back, on the figure's back. Like, so. Oh, come on, get in there. Oh, yeah, that's one thing I forgot to mention. Some of these pegs are different sizes. Like, yes, the gun can technically be shoved in there, but it's just a bit too big for that peg. But the shoulder pegs and forearm pegs, perfectly fine. Then there's the hands. The hands are just a smidge small than I would, or too small than I would like, but you can wedge the gun into his hand, which is good because Optimus should be able to hold his gun. Now, getting it out. All right, let's see. There. But the peg on the side of the cannon works just fine. Now, the axe. Well, it flops around, and then getting it into his hand, he holds up too high. But, I mean, you could at least hold it, right? Before we get into the transformation, just want to show off one other accessory, and that is the Matrix of Leadership inside. And it's big. I mean, it's really big, and it's really in there, and getting it out isn't exactly easy. You kind of have to wedge it out with something. I hate to use a hole punch or a knife or even a spudger, but it's really the only way you're going to get it out, because it's in there tight. I mean, I'm not really complaining. It's just more of a, hey, if you get this figure, be aware. That Matrix doesn't come out easily. Once it is out, it is a very nice rendition of the Matrix. It's really well painted, and it's just a nice, solid piece of plastic. Rear isn't painted. I actually might paint the rear myself. Now, how does that compare to the other Matrix that comes out of Shattered Glass Optimus? It's a bit bigger, as you can see. Also, full plastic, not painted translucent plastic, or transparent plastic. The figure's transformation is exactly the same as an Earthrise Prime. Start by opening up the forearms, which is actually a little bit hard to do considering that you have to somehow open a panel on this very slick plastic. Usually I found I have to get, if I had a fingernail, turn the fist around, get my finger in there, and then open it. Otherwise, get yourself a small pointy object, like a hole punch or a very sharp little knife, go into one of the corners of the wrists, and then just kind of wedge it up and hope you don't break anything. Yes, I realize this is not the best method. It's the only method I've been able to work or get work consistently for me. Now that the fists are folded up into the forearms, we'll come down to the back of the figure, flip out the front wheels, flip that whole section around like that. Next, grab the entire top torso section and unpeg it. Oh man, this is a lot harder than it looks. And with the entire top section flipped up like that, we can then come down to the lower tummy area and flip these bits and fold them back like so. A lot harder to do than you might think. Then turn the whole section around 180 degrees so the front of the robot mode is facing towards his butt. And then we do my favorite part of the Earthrise Optimus transformation, and that's unfolding the chest. So we grab the part of the chest, fold it up, and then come and reach inside and fold that section up, and then flip out all the panels like so. And then fold it down a little bit, come to the back of the head, and open up that panel, and that will let us flip down the robot head into the chest cavity. Close that up like that, and then fold that whole front of the vehicle mode down. And it's supposed to peg into place down here. It's not that it doesn't peg into place here. It doesn't want to peg into place under here. These pieces were painted, and I actually need to sand them down a bit because they're getting stuck on these peg holes up here. So you kind of have to just push and sandwich everything in together. Then we can come to the shoulders and rotate the arms around. Do the classic Optimus Prime, shoulders back, forearms in. Do the same thing on the other side. Shoulders back, forearms in. And then come down to the legs, combine them, fold up the heels and the toes, flip the entire leg section back, and then we can start closing up the panels on the side. The wheel panel, the front door, and then the side. Do the same thing on the other side. And we got a big old truck. So here is a quick size comparison of the vehicle modes. Here is Earthrise Optimus, the mold at least, and here's Siege Optimus. You can tell that it's just a little bit bigger on the top. Now, here are these two figures compared to the oversized Siege Prime. As you can see, the oversized Siege Prime is quite a bit bigger. And then, here, hold my Energon beer. Good Lord, look at this thing. It positively dwarfs the others. I mean, it's freaking massive. Hold on. MP10 Prime for scale. MP10 Prime. Good God, man. I mean, it dwarfs MP10 Prime in all aspects. It's freaking big. It's big, I tell you. And all of the accessories can be held on the figure. You could put the gun in the back. You could unpeg the gun and put that up here, up front. Or you could flip it out and then move it over here to the other side, where it immediately drops to the ground. You could plug the hilt in like that. That looks ridiculous. Now, the shield. The shield can be wielded in either side. Though when you push on these arms, they feel so fragile. It's just weird. You do that. And you can even peg the axe in the back, like that. Or you could peg the axe on the side. Or on the side facing forward, and you have a javelin. Actually, that looks pretty cool. I like the way that looks. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. So would I recommend this ginormous toy? Abso-freaking-lutely. It's cheap, it's so much fun, and it's absolutely humongous. Yes, it does have some minor flaws, but none of them are deal breakers. They're all, okay, yes, this has a flaw. I'm moving on with my life because it's so big and it's just fun. It is just a fun toy that I would recommend to any Transformers fan. So folks, head on down to the link in the description for this figure. You can pick it up over at sirtoys.com. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. Be sure to follow me over on Twitter. I'm going to be having some sales going up here for the holiday season. As always, I have been Baltmatrix, and I'll catch you all next time.